Hi everyone, this is Justin with Red Wagon Organic Farm out here in Lafayette. Today we are going to be talking about cucumbers. We grow a lot of cucumbers on this farm, as you can see by the many beds behind me, and with it being cucumber season starting up now, we're going to be starting to harvest quite a lot of them. So today, a few things we're going to go over. We're going to first talk about the different varieties we grow, then we're going to get into specific characteristics to look out for when you're harvesting the cucumbers, and then we're going to go out and just pick some and go over harvesting technique. So let's get started. Okay, before we get started, I want to first show everybody the different varieties that we will be harvesting. We have about 4 here or so, and there's a few that you can tell are pretty different from the rest. Let's start with this one right here. This is a seedless cucumber variety. You'll have to ask me or Wyatt for the name because I do not know it right now. Either way, you can see that it makes this nice emerald green fruit. Always on one side you're going to see it's a bit paler because of where it's in contact with the ground. And it is a thin-skinned seedless variety of cucumber. Get a little closer to it. So that's one variety there. This is a blonde variety of cucumber, and I've harvested a few at many different stages just to show everybody kind of what we're looking for. You can see over here we have ones that are a bit smaller. So this one is probably one that it needs to be left on the plant. You can tell that it's definitely a small guy. This variety probably needs to be around 4 to 5 inches long before we start harvesting it. This one has that length to it, but it just does not have the size yet. And you can see it still has these little black spines on it still, like quite a few of them. If I rub my fingers across them, they fall off, but generally as they start to ripen, those spines will fall off on their own. Here is one that I picked that I think is probably a ripe one. It's nice and thick and a little bit less of those spines on there, which again I can just brush off with my fingers. And if I cut it open, it has seeds. These are a seeded variety, obviously, and it will look something like this. And the seeds are pretty developed here, so we don't really want to get them too far beyond this, or else people are going to be eating really seedy cucumbers. But this is definitely a good size. And you can see this one's starting to get kind of yellow on top. That's why I took it to check it. And this yellow is indicating that it's going to be overripe. And so we can see with some of these ones over here, these are really yellow. And I'm thinking that these ones are really too overripe to give out for CSA customers. And I cut one of these open. This is a really big one, you can see, like very massive. I can't even get my fingers around it. And it's hollow on the inside. So that's not going to be a good thing for people to eat. It's not going to taste good. The seeds are really massive, and it's probably going to taste kind of mealy and gross. So those are examples of ones we don't want. And here are some examples of ones we do want. Stuff like that. And then we'd say this is probably too small, leave that for later. This variety is called Little Leaf, and these are a pickling cucumber, so they don't get very much bigger than this before they're ready to harvest, or if they had to get much bigger than this at all. But you can see, now again, this one has a nice emerald color to it, a little bit lighter on the bottom where it's been in contact with the ground. And if we take a look, this is obviously something we wouldn't want to harvest, is something at this stage. So we're looking for ones that are roughly 3 to 5 inches in length. So if I take this one and put it in the palm of my hand, it doesn't even reach my wrist. So that's a good indication that it's probably, that size is good. And the thickness of this is nice. I can pretty much barely touch my thumb and my middle finger together here. So that is Little Leaf pickling cucumber. Here's some other varieties of some green seeded cucumbers here. You can see this variety here again, I cut it open. Seeds are still a nice size. They're not too big. It probably will taste fine. People are not going to get a mouthful of seeds with that one. And then here's another one I've harvested. You can see that I took one that was a bit small just to show people. It's rather bumpy, and it still has lots of spines on it. So that's something we want to let that grow larger and fill out and let the spines just fall off naturally. That being said, I want to just kind of clarify that there will be spines on the ones that are ready to harvest, and that's fine. We'll be fine with that. But for the most part, we want to just avoid extremely spiny cucumbers. Not that they're like painful or anything, but just those spines are a good indicator that they're not ready to harvest. Here is another one that I picked. That's probably a ripe one. You know, it's a pretty dang good size there. I'd say this one's about 7.5 inches long or so, maybe a little bit less. And you can see it's filled out really nicely. Still has some of these bumps on it, but the spines are kind of gone, so that's why I took it. Anyway, so there you have it. A few different varieties of cucumber that will be harvested. So here we are in a patch of cucumbers. I am going to go over really quickly how we are going to harvest these. Cucumbers are pretty sensitive, at least the vines are. The whole plants are, but the vines are very sensitive. So it's really imperative that we're not stepping on the vines when we're walking down these fields and harvesting them. Now, it's a bit easier now because the plants have not yet spread out into the walkways. But once they do that, it's going to be very, very, very important that we are moving vines out of the way, taking steps, being very careful with where we're stepping, where we're walking, or else we're going to damage the plants, and it may slow or even impede or stop the production of new fruit. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work on harvesting some ripe ones from this bed. So I'm going to come along and I'm going to spread the leaves very gently if I can. And I found a few good ones in here. So I am going to just kind of move the vines out of the way. And again, you won't really need to do this because they'll be on the plastic still, but I'm going to take my foot and step really carefully. And then I found a good ripe one, and then I'm going to take it. And that will be what happens once these start to vine off the plants a lot more. For now, all I have to really do is just move the leaves out of the way, find a fruit, and I'll do a close-up of this, but I just take my finger on the vine and I swipe across, and there it is. I know you couldn't see that. I will give everybody a close-up view of that process. But here's a nice cucumber, and we just want to remember I was trying to be as gentle as I could with the plants. I'm moving them carefully out of the way so I'm not breaking leaves that much or at all. And I'm trying to be doing my best to not step or kneel on any of the heads of the plants, the vining parts of the plant. And that would be things like this. So this is, you can see the tendrils coming out of the top of this. These are like the little guys looking for a place to latch onto right there. You can see that. Yeah, right up there. Get my head out of the way. But yeah, this is what we're looking for. Do not step on these. And if you can remember to, if you do need to pick them up and move them, make sure you lay them back down like a proper orientation so that they're not being upside down. If the vines are upside down, when you lay them down, the sun will scald them and hurt them. Okay, so in my patch right here, I've found some nice ripe ones. I'm gonna move these leaves out of the way, and there you go. Some large cucumbers there. I'm gonna let these ones kind of grow a little bit longer. They're a little bit small still, but this one back here, if you can see it, that one looks pretty ready to me. So I'm going to take my gloved hand, like any other type of squash plant or cucurbit. These cucumbers have very spiny leaves, so if you have sensitive skin, they'll get very irritated. So I'm going to reach in here, and I'm going to carefully expose it where the stem is at, which is down here somewhere, looks like. Oops, we'll be careful with these. There we go. And you can see what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reach my finger underneath of it, right where the stem meets the plant, and I'm just going to swipe up. And that just took it right off easily enough. And there we go. And then one last thing you can do is just kind of swipe off the dead flower again. And there you go. A nice ripe cucumber ready to go out into the CSA.